This is the plaintiff, Jessica Gomez. She says she drove the defendant home after a huge snowstorm, and he directed her to take a road which wasn't plowed. They ended up getting stuck in the snow, and a nice guy with a truck and rope offered to pull them out. She was worried, though, about the car being damaged, but the defendant told her he needed to get home and would split any damages if they occurred. Sure enough, her bumper was busted, her windshield cracked, and now the louse won't pay up. She's suing for $543.62, half the amount of the damage her car sustained. This is the defendant, Christopher. He says he did initially agree to pay half the damages to the plaintiff's car because he felt bad. But the woman's trying to snooker him, and he's not the type to be taken advantage of. The estimate to fix her car went from $1,400 to $2,000, and her car isn't even worth that. Then he finds out she sold the car at auction and is now still trying to collect money for repairs to a car she doesn't even own anymore. Some people. He's accused of being flaky.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff drove the defendant home in the middle of a huge snowstorm, gave her bum directions, and her car got damaged. But the defendant agreed to pay for some of the damage, and now she got ridiculously greedy. It's the case of, you've got some big snowballs, lady.
Douglas. Okay, Jessica Gomez?
Yes.
You are suing Christopher, you've asked us not to mention your last name, your friend or former friend, for $543.62, half the balance of some damages that occurred to a car that, according to you, he agreed to pay for.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
The large snowstorm that happened on February 9th, that was a Friday night into Saturday of this year, 2013. The morning of February 11th, he called me and said he hadn't been able to get his cars out, hadn't dug them out, and needed a ride to work. He was my friend, my coworker, so I said, sure, no problem. Went to work, no problem, did what we had to do. When we were coming home, he directed me to a street that once I turned on, realized had not been plowed all the way through. My car got stuck, so we tried a whole bunch of times to get it out, and it was unsuccessful. I'd say we were there about approximately 45 minutes. The entire time, his wife was calling him saying, you need to get home. I have to get to work. I have my car dug out. You got to get home for the kids. After 45 minutes.
How old are the kids?
10 and 6.
After about 45 minutes, a guy that came in a big truck with a rope and chain, he was just passing by, said, I see you're stuck. I work for AAA. I've been helping people out all day, just trying to do my part. I can pull you out, but I might do some damage, and I don't want to be held responsible for that. Chris told me he had to get home, that he would pay for half of it, whatever happened. He had to get home for his kids because his wife had to get to work.
So before the guy hooks up, Chris tells you, if anything goes wrong, I'll pay for half of it.
Yes.
Okay, is that accurate?
No.
Go on.
The AAA guy, he hooked up the truck and to my bumper, and he pulled the car. And when he pulled the car, he pulled us off towards the right and into a snowbank, and the windshield immediately cracked. He then pulled it out. He pulled us to a street that was plowed, and we were safe to get out. He left. He said, you know, I've done my job. Goodbye.
Did you pay him?
I gave him a $10 tip just to, as
Were you
thank
supposed to pay him?
No.
He was doing it as a favor.
He was doing it as a good gesture
Yeah.
to help people out, and I thanked him by giving him $10. Chris said that I'm
Did you
close
know
to
there was
home.
damage at that point?
Not at that point. Not till I got it home.
Okay.
Chris said, I'm a few blocks from home. I'm just going to walk. I'm going to get home. So
Why didn't he just do that before then? Why would he offer to pay for half of your car if he's a few blocks from home? He could just, you know.
I'm not sure, but he did walk home. Well, I was driving the car back to my home, and it was feeling strange. It just didn't feel the same when I was driving it. When I got home and got it parked in the parking lot, I saw that the bumper was pulled, coming apart off of the car. It was cracked. There was a piece of the wheel well that was like rubbing against the tire. So I spoke to Chris that evening, and I told him about what was going on with the car. And
Did she call you that evening and tell you?
She did.
And what'd she say?
Basically that she thinks that there was front end damage to the car, and basically that she's not sure. She's going to have to get an estimate to see if there's any damage. Or
Yeah, but did she say, and I want you to pay for it?
I don't recall that she said that, but she alluded to the fact that she, you know, She actually never alluded to the
Did
fact
she
that
say,
she
I need you to pay half like you promised?
No, because I never agreed to that
So
initially.
did she say, I want you to pay half because I think it's right?
Not then, no.
At some point in time, though, for whatever reason, you decide that you're going to pay for half of it, right?
I have the written contract.
Hold on a second. At some point in time, you decide that you're going to pay for half of it.
She decided that. She initially asked me
You
if...
agreed.
I did agree.
Why?
I signed. I felt bad about the situation. She brought me home. I felt bad. But then when I found out later on that she was asking me for more money...
What did you
because-
find out that made you angry?
So he agrees to pay for half right at the scene, and then all of a sudden he changes his mind. Is he allowed to change his mind?
You know, I think he is allowed to change his mind. It's only a verbal agreement. It's not really a written contract, so I don't think he's bound by that.
You buy that, everybody?
I think that he should stick by his word. It's really messed up if you're just gonna say that you're gonna help pay, and
But he's thinking about it, and he's saying, I didn't really wasn't responsible for this.
I think he's entitled to change his mind. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
I found out that there was more damage and that she was asking me for more money.
Right.
And that she wanted more money from me. I just felt like I was being taken. You know, like I understand, you know, your
But
car
that happens sometimes when you take a car in for repair, all of a sudden they tell you that it's more.
Okay.
Right.
But I really didn't feel like the amount of money that she had asked me to pay for, the half of the damages, I shouldn't have signed the contract for.
Right. You change your mind. But when you paid how many payments?
Made 2 payments.
Okay. And may I see what he signed?
Sure.
And then what do you do when he signs this?
I gave him a copy. He gave me a check for $100 that same day that he signed the contract. Then I was able to get the car in for April 8th was the first available appointment that the body shop had. Like I said, they took the bumper completely off and saw there was frame damage, and the bill went up. I have that bill paid in full in cash. On April 14th, I picked up the car on April 11th. On April 14th, we were coming home from a birthday party at a petting zoo, and a guy ran a stop sign and T-boned the car and totaled the car.
After you had just paid to have
After
it
I
fixed?
just paid the $2,000 cash.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was like
Show
4
me
days
proof
later.
that you paid the $2,000. Now you find out about this and you think she's just trying to pocket the money. But why don't you just meet with your former coworker and have her show you the proof that she paid the thing?
Well, she gave me a copy of it.
Did you call them to confirm that she had paid it?
I did not call them to confirm that.
So what evidence do you have that she didn't pay it? So in other words, she's out the money. That you and she had them do the work based on your promise that she's only going to have to come up with half of it. She goes and gets the car fixed. Now I'm gonna get off this bench. I'm gonna confirm that this was paid because anybody can buy a paid stamp. So I'm gonna confirm that this little baby was paid. But if this baby was in fact paid, then
Right.
yes, she relied on that promise, and you need to pay the rest of the amount. So I don't want the parties to leave until I am able to make that contact and confirm that. But assuming that, in fact, I confirm that the amount was paid, I find in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of the $543.62 that she's out that was contractually obligated by you to pay. All right, that is my verdict.
Thank you.
Well, here he is. He'll be paying half. Doesn't that make you feel good?
Not really.
Why not?
Well, I just feel like it wasn't fair. So basically, that's it.
Well, what part's not fair about paying half of the damage when she gave you the ride and all that stuff? What's not fair?
I didn't do damage to her car, basically, and the person who really owes her money is the guy who towed her car. And
Well, your
damaged it.
original agreement to pay half, you did at one point agree, right?
Okay. Well, I was trying to be a friend, and that's what happens when you try to be a friend sometimes.
You don't want to be a friend anymore?
No more.
All right. So step on in here. What do you think of this outcome here?
I mean, it's unfortunate that it had to happen like this, but I was trying to be nice and help my coworker out, and he kind of, I feel, took advantage of me being nice. It wouldn't have happened if he had dug his car out. And
I know. How did he take advantage exactly?
he said he was going to pay. He made 2 payments, and then he said, well, you don't drive the car anymore, so I don't have to pay you anymore. But I couldn't go back to the body shop and say, I don't have the car anymore. I want my money back.
You glad you gave him a lift?
No, I wouldn't do it again.
Barbie?
So the key here is reliance. Once somebody says, I will do something or I will pay something, and the other person relies on it and takes steps and compromises their rights as a result, sorry, but the person who made the promise is bound. Before the reliance, generally, they're not bound. And that will do it for this case. Litigants, for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.